Okay, welcome back to another episode of the RAG podcast with me, Sean Anderson, the CEO and founder of Hoxo Media. This is the show where I bring to you a story every single week from a recruitment owner around the world who's prepared to tell the reality of how they've got to where they are, how they started their agency, how they've grown their agency, where they're heading, warts and all. This week, I'm excited to be joined by Dan Fox. Dan is the co-founder of Trilogy International, Forbes Testing, Forbes Talent Solutions, and an investor in Quantum 6. I think I got that right, Dan. That was a mouthful.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Dan is from the same sort of training school background as myself, and we actually came up against each other a little bit when I was in my recruitment days. So the name of Dan Fox was a little bit of a legend in my office, which is a bit weird. But Dan, pleasure to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Good to finally meet you.
Yeah.
Likewise, you've also got a reputation that I used to come to hear about as well, which is good.
Hopefully, all good. Hopefully, but yeah, my boss Claire, who I'm going to send this episode to, because I doubt she's ever listened to the show, but she'll listen to this one. She used to say I was like, yeah, just like you like Foxy, but from the north. That's what she said, and I was like, I hope that's a good thing. I don't know. 100%,
it would have been a good thing. Claire's wicked. She's great. You got schooled well.
Yeah, I think so. So Dan, I gave you a very, very basic overview. Tell us the truth. Like, if someone just says, what do you do right now? How do you describe it? What's your role?
So I'm, as you said, I'm one of the co-founders, but I mean, I'll describe it as, I'm a leader, basically. I'm a leader of people. We set up our businesses, some are a bit older than others, but, my role is to set the vision, set the strategy, and then actually bring people together and kind of take them on the journey with us. So, I've always enjoyed just managing different people, be it older people, younger people, guys, girls, whoever they may be. But yeah, so I'd say my job is, I'm a leader.
And your team, tell us about what does the business look like now? Helicopter view of what's inside.
Yeah, so people don't know Trilogy. We're a specialist in technology and business change and transformation. We operate in the UK, Europe, and the US. We're 35 people. Right. If you would have asked us, if we would have done this podcast 2 years ago, I mean, we could have named it Trilogy Domestic because, 100% of our attention was on the UK. And now 25% of our headcount is the UK and 75% is into Europe and the US. So the business has actually gone through some, transformational change itself, which has been brilliant. And actually, it's been the best thing. So, it's a great business. It's kind of, I've listened to a number of the podcasts. It's different to some of the other ones where you get, a lot of big companies. We are a small to medium sized business. And for us, it's all about kind of, profit, and it's all about the company being a really good business to work for, incredible culture, incredible environment, but actually a very profitable business, which is key for us.
That's key. I like the honesty in that. I mean, you get some people who ignore the fact that you're there to make a profit. Like there's nothing to be ashamed of. In terms of the name Trilogy International, were you genuinely thinking about a global business at the time to put that? Because that's quite punchy name if you've got no intention of it.
Was it? So at my old place, and maybe we'll get into it, we covered a lot of different aspects. Hydrogen was a company I worked for, and we took that. I joined, I think I was 21st person to join, and we grew it to 400, and we globalized it, and we did some things right and we did some things wrong. But we knew when we set up Trilogy that actually we couldn't do everything straight away. And for us, we were like, let's focus on the UK. Let's focus on what we're good at. So I think they're always, we always knew we were going to do it. We just didn't know when. And actually, Europe has, focusing on Europe has sped up because of IR35 changes in the marketplace. And then the US, we decided to launch in, during the pandemic. So that which has been amazing. But I didn't think we would do that so quickly, but we have.
It's crazy. Well, let's go back. Let's go back to the start. So I think that's your dog going crazy. I love the podcast. It's got involved easier. I mean, the amount of Amazon men and dogs that have interrupted in the last year is insane. But tell us, how did you get into the industry? Because you said you were doing sort of transferable things before.
Yeah. So a bit of background to myself. So I think a lot of people who get into recruitment now, they think, or depending on what company you're at, think you've had to have a degree or something like that. I never went to university. It wasn't for me. I've got a twin brother. He was a lot more academic and wanted to go down that route. I just thought I wanted to make some money. I was 18 years old. And back then, which is, I'm 41 now, so 23 years ago, I was like, I want to be a stockbroker. I don't know, I watched too many films. I was like, oh, they make money there. But I got into that industry and was doing really well. And then suddenly I got an opportunity to be a football agent when I was 21 years old, and I'm passionate about football, watch it, play it, etc. And I was like, do you know what? I'm young. I can't turn this down. So maybe I'll save those stories for another time or for a beer. But I've got some amazing stories. Had 3 mad weeks with Gaza, which was pretty interesting.
Were you working with like high profile footballers or just?
Yeah. So the company was it was a company called First Artists. They were a big company and looked after some high profile players. My job was to try and bring on the younger talent because I was younger. I remember talking to Rooney when he was 14 years old and before he'd made it. Unfortunately, we signed one of his best mates, a kid called Scott Brown, and not him. But the company looked after a number of high profile players, and you also do their commercial deals. So we looked after Gaza towards the end. So I had 3 weeks with him when we had to put him on the on the World Cup, which was interesting.
Wow. So is it as glamorous as you'd think, or is it just like a recruitment job with a different?
So that's the thing. You can liken it the same. It sells, right? You've got to find the player. Well, you find the players, and the aim was you had to try and get them younger and younger, and then you had to sign them, and you had to kind of get on board their parents as well, and then you had to negotiate deals, for the clubs and stuff like that. So there is a lot of similarities to recruitment. Actually, the one good thing I think that came out of it, that when I went into recruitment, a lot of people when you first join, especially I was young or I didn't know what I was talking about when I got into recruitment, was a lot of people get really nervous when they either pick up the phone or when they go on a meeting. From the football industry, I wasn't nervous at all because I was meeting some guys who were kind of my heroes as football players. Yeah. And they're just the same as me and you. They're just normal blokes, and it's the same, right? Everyone's just the same. And I try and teach that to the guys that, that work for me now. It's just a client. It's just somebody else that you could have a chat with, and all they can do is say no. And people forget that, and they all get a bit stressed about things. So that was great for me. I just went in there. I had no fear at all when I first got into recruitment.
I love it. I love it. So what made you go from football agent into recruiter?
Yeah, so like most people, I had a friend in recruitment that was doing really well, and for me, so because I was always just money hungry, and to my friends, I had the best job. I had like a convertible car. I was going to football matches, meeting football players, but the commission wasn't there because these boys were 14, 15 or 16, and they don't earn their money till they're probably 18, 19 and above, really. And it was just going to be a long time, and I couldn't wait around, basically. Also, the couple of guys that we worked for, they weren't the easiest of bosses, and I was like, do I need to keep doing this? And I got an opportunity to go to another company, but I was like, do you know what, I'm going to look at something new. And a friend of mine told me about recruitment, and it went from there, really.
So why was Hydrogen the company they worked for, or did you just go?
So they did work for Hydrogen, and he was like, I'll go meet the rec to rec, and they'll explain to you about recruitment and send you out on some interviews. And so they did, and they sent me on 3 interviews, and I got 3 offers, and I'm like, right, which one do I choose? I've got no idea. But I joined, Hydrogen before then was called Project Partners, so they were smaller. They were very much, when I met them, it was all about kind of trying to build some relationships. They were about, go and meet your candidates, go and meet your clients, put in some expenses, and I like that. Whereas some of the other firms were like, you've just got to be behind your desk on a phone for 10 hours.
Literally, that's exactly my experience. I went from Randstad in Melbourne to London in 2012, and I had, I think it was GCS, Nigel Frank, and Venquis, and that was it. They wanted me chained there. You recruited internationally just behind a phone, whereas Claire was like, we're going to be in the city of London meeting people. The whole job is about face-to-face interaction. And I was like, I'm taking that all day because that was what I did in Australia. So Project Partners, was Barnaby in there then?
Barnaby was there. Yeah, he was there at the beginning. He was one of the founders. So he's a great character. And then Steve joined a bit later on. Steve's brilliant. They're a good bunch. They're a good bunch.
How did your career go? You were there for a long time, and you grew it out to 400 out. We don't have to go into the detail of everything, but how did your career trajectory go over that period?
Yeah, so I started. I started in April 2003, not knowing anything, and it was totally different to like recruitment now, where you've got LinkedIn. I didn't have a database. There's no LinkedIn. You can't go and find anything. You literally have to call call up some switchboards and try and find some names and numbers and find different techniques to get through to people. Back then, a lot of people were in the investment banking market and like doing well. And then I fell into the insurance market and kind of I did after like 6 weeks, I did 4 deals very quickly. And I was like, oh, I'm going to roll with this basically. And it started to go from there. And I remember for the next 6 weeks, I was like, recruitment's a bit easy. Things will start to come to me, and it didn't. And to be fair, my boss didn't even give me a kick up the backside. I did it myself, and I was like, right, I need to go after things. And back then they trained me well. It was quite KPI driven. It's like an idiot's guide to recruitment. If you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to get the result. And I just did it. And for me, I thought this is the third industry I'm in. I'm not going to be changing again. Even though I had reasons to move along, I was like, I'm going to make this work. So I just got my head down and and did the right things. And as I said, started to do very well. And after about a year, I was the top biller at Project Partners. And after about 18 months or 2 years, I think I was one of the top billers in the city. So at my height, I was billing about 1.4 million a year, had about 120 contractors out, small clients, big clients, a variety of things. And, it was great.
How old were you then at that point?
So I joined when I was 23. I'm kind of at 25. I'm making a lot of money.
You're making a stupid amount of I mean, I billed 700 in my top year, and I earned a great amount of money. So you must have been earning ridiculous money. What was life like at that point?
It was great fun. I was going to the city then. I was going out a lot, and it was great. I remember my boss was going to me. He was like, "Do you want to be a team leader?" And I was like, "No, I'm all right. I'm being a selfish recruiter. I'll just look after myself." And just enjoyed going out, meeting clients, and it was great. It was brilliant. And we had that period of time. Around everyone talks about 2006-7. If you're around, I mean, it was like a license to print money. If you did things right, it was it was a booming market. Then we obviously had the financial crash in 2008 and 9. So things did change. But after about 5 years, I was like, I'm not saying I mastered recruitment, but I was like, all right, I want to learn a different skill set. And I was like, well, I want to be a team leader, and then did that, and then at where we turned into Hydrogen Group at the time, a manager there, you become non-billing, and that's the kind of biggest jump for anyone. Is like, how do I kind of we're all as recruiters, we're all selfish and do it in our own way, and then how you earn your money or how you move your career is in the hands of other people, which is quite tough. But I quite enjoyed that, and quite, as I said, enjoyed managing different people and what motivates them and kind of what drives them and how do you get the best out of them. And then we continued to grow out different areas and different offices, and my career grew, so became associate director and then one of the regional managing directors on the exec board. So I had an amazing 12 years there. It was great. When was
the moment you knew you were going to do your own thing?
There were some changes towards the end of 2013. The CEO was making some changes that I didn't kind of agree with. Really, we were a business that it was all about. We were AIM listed business, and we had shareholders and people that would come in that actually weren't from recruitment, and they would ask us questions and put us under pressure about things that I'm like, you don't even know our industry. So, but the CEO was, he had some, face off to them, and they were putting them under pressure to make, cost savings, and I had to implement them, and I didn't agree with it. So I was then going to see how the Q1 started in 2014, and it was kind of going that way, and then more changes were happening. So I said to Ivan, who's one of my business partners now, I was like, should we go and do this together? I'd have 12 years experience, he'd have 15. And he was like, yeah, let's go and do it. And then Jamie, the other business partner, the other one of the three of us, he'd worked for me for 10 years. And I was like, look, these are my plans. You're obviously contracted to be there, but if it's right. And he was like, look, I'll go where you go when the time's right. So, kind of, it was started at the end of 2013 and then came to its head April 2014, and then had to have six months out, which was great as per my contracts. So went to LA for a bit, got to spend some time with the family, and then actually in that period it kind of allows you to kind of really work out how did we want Trilogy to be. We had 6 months to really plan it, which was actually great. A lot of the time you're like, right, am I wasting my time with certain things? What should we be doing? But we really worked out of like, what do we want to do? Because I'd run 9 practice areas: business change, technology, life sciences, we've done power and mining, oil and gas, etc. And you're like, what do you go and start? We run it all. They're all, some of them are all doing well, but what do you go and focus on? But we thought we'd start with business change and transformation. I knew it inside out, and we thought we'd go. And we always knew we wanted to be more of a contract business, and it's a very contract led, as you know.
Yeah, it is, yeah. So you say you started in 2014, late 2014, but your LinkedIn doesn't suggest that. What's that all about?
Okay, so the story behind this is so we set up on November 14, and I went into an office, three of us actually. So Jamie hadn't started yet, so it was myself, Ivan, and a guy Nick who's still with us. And we've gone in, and you're all excited. We didn't take any funding for it. We were sort of setting this up ourselves. Jamie, Ivan, and I were putting in our own money. And we've all got kids and children at this point. So we're like, we've got to make this work. I was never actually worried that we were going to fail, because you're driven slightly different when you have kids as well. And also we've been, we were successful before. So we were like, we're going to make a success of this. We were just like, what do we focus on? So busy trying to pick up contract business. And on day 10 of us going, I actually did 2 contract deals. They were our first placements. Actually, they weren't even in business change. I think they were management accountants, and I think we made like a grand a week margin on each. It was great, So our emotions were like this. We were like, that was at 10 a.m. We got the offers through and closed the candidates, and then at 4 p.m. We got served by a legal letter from Hydrogen saying Ivan and myself couldn't work together. So our emotions have gone like this to this.
What was it in your contract? You couldn't work with another member of staff or something?
Do you know what? I still don't even know if they can, if they can uphold that sort of type of thing. But what it does, when you work at a big company, it does 2 things. For them to send a legal letter that costs 500 quid or a grand, it's nothing. For you to respond when you're putting money into your business, it's 500 quid or a grand. Plus, it's taking your time out of your day when you should be excited about your business. You're worrying about, and you're meeting lawyers and trying to go, what have I done wrong? And trying to fight that off. So it's a distraction. And I think that's all they want to do. Plus, because we were senior people in the business, I think they just wanted to show to the rest of the members of staff that, if you go and leave and set up your own thing, we'll come after you. So had that to deal with. And the advice from our lawyer was, we should maybe work together for 6 months. So we were like, and this just wasn't the plan. Now, we were going to set up a part of the business called Trilogy Testing. And essentially we were like, right. So I came up with the name Trilogy, and I came up with the name Forbes Testing, even though the other guys seem to think they did. They didn't come up with that name. And I was like, look, we weren't ever going to call it Forbes Recruitment because we didn't want recruitment in the name. So we were like, well, we'll call it Forbes Testing. And I was basically going to, be the face of that and head that up. And Ivan was going to focus on Trilogy. And we did that. And so we set up 2 businesses side by side. And, and actually the Forbes Testing was a consulting business, and Hydrogen had never done that. So it wasn't competing in that space.
Right. So how was that period of time apart? What were you sat next to each other just with different company emails, basically?
Company emails. And so at first, so we got an office, and we've taken some service officing, and then our lawyer was like, you guys shouldn't even be in the same building. So we were like working from home for a bit. It was a nightmare. It's not how you really want to be starting your business. So sometimes we'd meet in a hotel in Holborn, but we weren't in the same office for a few months. So it was
wow.
It was tough.
How long was it until you started to grow the team? How long were you just you guys banging in deals and just building stuff?
Yeah, so that was we stayed that when did we take on our 5th member of staff, really? Because there was 3 of us, we hired one straight away. It was probably after kind of 3 months or so, we started taking on a few more people. But we were small for a long time. I think there was only 7 of us for the first year. So we were just a bit like, we just want to do a lot of deals. Those first, when there were 7 people in an office, it's great fun. We had walls that we could write all over. We didn't have much process in the system. It actually came back to, a year later on when we weren't using our system very well. We're like, well, why don't we log things on the system? Because it would help us. But we just didn't. All we cared about was picking up the phone and, trying to get to do sales and build relationships. We didn't want to be distracted by admin at the time.
No, I get it. I think you're not the only one who's been through that. I'm interrupting this episode of the RAG podcast to bring you a message from our sponsor, Odro. You know by now that Odro are the #1 video interview platform for recruiters around the world. Now, they keep bringing out new features, from Odro Capture to Odro Producer, and it just keeps getting better and better and better. But now, recently, they've just announced a new feature to the platform, which is a complete game changer. During COVID-19, they realized that the recruitment audience, the communication was changing. Globally, their clients and candidates were using Microsoft Teams and Zoom more than anything else. The phrase, let's jump on a Zoom call or jump on a Teams call, has actually replaced the words video interview for a lot of their conversations over the last 6 months. Now, they were thinking, how are we going to eradicate this? How are we going to make Odro the name that everyone talks about for the interview process? And they realized they didn't need to. They needed to integrate. So for the first time ever, they're the first video interview platform on the planet that have decided and managed to integrate with Zoom and soon to be integrated with Microsoft Teams. So with one click, after recording a Zoom video, you can now drag that into Odro and create everything else that Odro has, from adding the CV, the heat maps, the capture, and the producer elements. You get all the benefits of Odro before and after the interview, but you get to use Zoom, which is client-friendly on all levels. So this is massive. Teams is coming. It's the first time anyone's ever done it in our sector, and it is literally going to change the way you work in 2021. Get in touch with my friends over at Odro at odro.co.uk, or if you're already a user, reach out to your account manager to make sure you've got this feature. Back to the show. How did you feel going from being a, practice leader in a global business to being a, back on the tools and sat in your own, not in your underpants, you're actually in an office, but what was that like? What was it like going from, because a lot of people I think fear that. They fear going from a comfortable leadership role to, a salesperson again.
I think the good thing at my old place, I was very hands-on in the client space. So I always went out there on the big pitches. I was, most of the big accounts I was involved with. So I did that side quite a bit, the pitching. I hadn't found a candidate in, God knows, in 5 years maybe or more. So that's a bit surreal. And so I remember people calling me like, "How are you finding this? Is it a problem?" I was like, actually, it wasn't that bad. And when you're focused on doing it for yourself or for your business, and you've got like a common goal of going, right, we're just going to grow this, and I've got to do this type of thing, you just don't care, really. I really didn't have an issue with it. I didn't, some people were like, "Oh, you're back on the tools, look at where you were, look where you are now." It didn't bother me at all. I loved it. I have to say, it was good.
Fair. So then, what was the end of the year? End of the first year, 7 people. Was that when you were all allowed to be officially back as Trilogy? And
so it was after 6 months. We could because we'd had 6 months out. So it was a year. So then we had another 6 months. So that was probably April 2015. Right. We could all be together in an office and we can really push forward and jump, and bounce off each other. So to know what the Forbes business was a really good business that it was a software testing consultancy, and we found a little niche, and that I was focusing on that, and actually it was bringing business over to Trilogy as well, so it worked pretty well. That was a hard business to get going though, because it's not. I knew recruitment, and then you're kind of setting up a consulting business as well, so it was pretty tough, kind of going, right, how do I get my head into that and not just have a recruitment hat on. But it was good. It was good, really.
When you came back in as Trilogy, how did you structure things then? What was because you're finally allowed to do what you want. You've got these 2 companies now. What did you do next?
So with Forbes, we were hiring people on our payroll and actually then selling them out like any old consultancy, as if we were Accenture, just on a really small scale. So let's just say someone's on 30 grand and we're selling them out for 300 quid a day. And then suddenly, all of our clients were loving the people that we were putting on site, and they were going, right, we want to take this person, we'll give them 60 grand, and we're like, we can't stop someone doubling their salary, and we also don't want to piss off our clients. So we're like, we still want to work with them. So we were changing our terms that if they were to hire someone, they'd have to pay us 100% of their fee. One client paid us 45 grand for a tester. I mean, it was crazy. But we had some really good people. So that became difficult because it was hard. We were just, every time we hired someone, we were losing them to the clients after a while. So we were like, right, we're just going to really focus on the contract, on the Trilogy side, and then have Forbes as kind of on, it's just, it allows you to have a different kind of conversation with your client. So really, we were all focusing on Trilogy and and pitching contract work into the UK.
Okay, so, and you talked about that. So you had a very UK business for a number of years.
Yeah.
What was the change then, and what was the turning point?
So we grew our business really quickly. So we got up to 250 contractors, just over about 255 contractors in about, was it three and a half years? Which was
really, really good going.
Yeah. So look, our focus as well was different. We didn't want to be, and it's still the same now, we don't want to work on portal work. We don't want to work with, your massive clients necessarily. I mean, we do, but when we started, we wanted to be able to work with clients that we could build a relationship with. Someone that we can say, right, what's your recruitment journey? Let us go on it with you and let us really understand you. And, there was a lot of challenger banks and fintechs coming through at that point. So that helped us to grow at that point. Then, as a lot of the UK contract recruitment companies, IR35 got announced, and we were like, a lot of people were like, this is never going to happen. This is never going to happen. And our view was, this could very much happen. It's happened in the public sector. Why would this not happen? So, we're pretty good to react. And instead of kind of being in denial, we were like, right, we know we want to continue to grow contracts. We don't have these problems in Europe. So let's go and let's focus on the European market. So try to hire, a leader to really focus on that. We hired one person, got it wrong, wasn't who we thought it would be, and then we got someone else that had done it. A few other companies, and it's been great. And we've been focusing really more on the tech market into Europe, and it's been great. So whilst we knew the UK might go down on the contract side, the European business was going to grow, and it was. And then suddenly
what are the major differences with IR35 now then? Because I was still in the Venquis when it came and hit the public sector, and then I left just before it was announced for the private sector. But what is the major difference with contract recruitment nowadays? Like, what is it? Just the fact you just got to have a different structure to your contracts, or is it dramatically different?
It is dramatically different. Now you can't. So yes, we have to have different. Our contracts are different, but it's more about the candidate. The onus is on the candidate, but then it does get flowed down to us. So a candidate cannot, if they had other directors in their businesses and they looked like they were a one-man band that looked like they had a company, you can't do that anymore. So you for them. You're basically an employee. It's just you're being put onto a contract slightly differently. So it's changed the market completely.
Because their take home is now based on PAYE rather than on.
So someone that was earning £500 a day and might have been paying whatever tax they're paying, they are now that £500 a day they're paying 40% tax. Wow. And there's no way around it. So
is the market is the insurance and banking contract market still buoyant though? People are the same people still dealing with it, just upping their day rates and things.
So I think honestly, weirdly, a good thing for that mark, even though there's obviously COVID has been horrific for a lot of reasons, and there has been some. I think there's been a few positives for us as a business from it. But I think because some people just want to be in a job, some contractors, they are happy to take effectively a 40% cut. So, you'd rather be in a job earning something rather than nothing now. So I think that's allowed for people to just kind of say, so it is still a busy market, but there are different solutions. So we've got Forbes testing is now, we've got another business, Forbes Project Solutions, which does the same, but it's more of a consulting business or a statement of work offering. So you've just got to, you've got to provide different solutions for your clients, basically.
Yeah. So when you came back in to Trilogy and you started growing that contract team, talk about that. Tell us about it. There's a lot of people listening, I reckon, especially from perm recruitment businesses that don't. I can visualize what you did, but tell us, how did you do that? How do you get to 250 contractors in 3 years?
Yeah.
Like, what are the components? And not just you, but the team.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people, when they go and set up a recruitment business, if they haven't done contract before, they don't know it. They'll always have a perm business because you think, I want to go and recruitment hasn't changed in 20 years in the fact of, it's quite vanilla. Find a job, find the right candidate, put them together. That's never changed. Obviously, cultures, environments, the way you operate is different. But when you go, if you're starting a new business, right, I want a job, I need a job, and you'll typically pick up a permanent job because that's what you know, people want a lot of people. The hard thing is to find the right candidates. So for us, we were picking up perm jobs and we were like, no, you know, we've got to keep looking for the contract ones. Or we were just trying to find solutions to try and say, take a contractor for 3 or 6 months and then see if, you know, if you can then transfer them into perm, because we were dealing with kind of small to medium sized businesses that were also trying to grow as well. So I think that the first and foremost is stay true to what you're going to do. If you're going to go and do contracts, you've got to say no to the permanent jobs. You have to do it.
And that was a hydrogen thing, wasn't it? Like to split that up, because we at Vanquish, we were always contract or perm. There was no dual in that.
No dual.
That came from there, and I, you know, we used to laugh. I used to sit opposite. Do you remember John Sharp? Did you ever work with John Sharp?
Yeah.
Sharpie and Anthony Webster were on the perm side, and I was contract. And we used to laugh that they walk slow, they talk slow, they move slow, and we were just like the pace. But
it's 100 miles per hour.
But the detail they had to go through was different. And, you know, I always used to say that if we can combine the pace of contract for the perm team, they'll be better. And if you can increase the detail in the contract team, like the perm team, will be better. So we tried to learn a lot from each other. Yeah. But I do believe you're right that if you focus on just getting really good at one thing, like you don't need to be great at both. No. And so what was the linear line like for over that 3-year period? Was it literally like month-on-month growth, or did you win huge projects, or how did that look?
So, I mean, again, you know, I think, you know, the difference again on really good recruiters or people that are very good, it's like, how do you, anyone I feel like can go and open a door or pick up a job or do a deal. It's then how do you go and then turn that deal into, you know, into a client? How do you go and develop some business? And, you know, the S3 model was get in, do a deal, get out. You know, that's what it was for years. And then they've actually tried to change, I think it's their Huxley brand, and, you know, is more about account management and, you know, and development. So they maybe should have done that years ago, but we were very good. And again, we were schooled in that way. Was, you know, how once you're into a client, instead of going running off to the next one, how can you go and develop that client and turn it into, you know, from a 2 or 3 or 4 contractor run a business into a 10, 20 if they can. So we were just very good at building really good relationships at different levels. And then, you know, and then there's competition. Weirdly, I'm driven. I'm a bit weird like this. So I'm driven more by loss than I am by winning. So, you know, so winning for me is just like, that's just my job. Yeah. Losing, it eats me up. So, you know, knowing if we would have, you know, lost out on a job to, you know, to Sean at, you know, Venquis at the time, that would bother me, and we just wouldn't allow that to happen again. So, you know, and we got everyone in.
I think that for me was also when I was dealing with the client, like I felt like I was not performing for them as well. You know, it was like I had to fill that job because it was what I said I would do. It was like a fear rather than a excitement. I mean, I remember when I first started working with Claire, I remember I had a shocking 5 months. Like I worked my balls off, but it just didn't happen. Like I did one deal from September to Christmas, and then I did one in January. Then as well, I went to New York in the first week of December. I'd done one deal, and the fucking one time I go away for 2 days, a contract job got called in, and my perm colleague filled it, and I was like, "Fuck, that was what I was there for." Anyway, and I remember sitting there, and I was starting to believe it wasn't going to happen. And then in the following 6-7 months, I just smashed it. I was doing like, you know, I went from 1 to 22 contractors in about 8 months, and then I used to sit on the tube on the way to meetings from what was it? Where was it? What's the one behind behind Trafalgar Square? What's this tube station? Temple? Is it Temple? Yeah, it's Temple.
Temple. Yeah.
You can walk to Temple, jump on, and get off at Monument. And I always used to do like little calculations of like what I'd earn if I got to this many runners and that many runners and that many runners. And don't get me wrong, that excited me, but it didn't make me perform. What made me perform was fear. So and even now, like, I have a business where I just think it could all fall apart anytime. Like I don't have any. I think recruitment gives you that feeling that.
Well, we've had obviously pandemic happened, and we'll obviously talk about that period. But you know, October last year, when we were coming out of it, we had our 3rd best ever month, and then March was our best ever month we've had, and came April the 1st, or we won't say because it's back April Fool's, but April 2nd, whatever it was. I'm like worried about the month because I'm just never content. And I'm like, where some people are like, well, let's just celebrate. And we do celebrate our successes. Of course you do. Everyone does in recruitment. But then as soon as we've done that, I'm like, right, what we're doing this month, how we're going to better it. Yeah, we go again. And that's the difference between really successful individuals or companies. Of they're never content, really. They always want to drive on and, be better and do better.
Do you reckon we were bred in? Was someone breeding that into us, or did we have that before we got the job? Like, where is that from?
That is just inner ambition. I don't think, there are some people that are just wired that way. When I was at Hydra, I used to see some people and I was like, you've got so much ability and talent, but you're just so lazy. And, some people were just really happy earning 50 grand, earning their bin money. And it's great. But then there are others who are like, well, if I can earn 100 or 150, 200, whatever it may be, they push themselves. And other people they don't want that stress in their life.
Yeah, no, I completely see that. And it's crazy. Someone said to me, well, my mentor, he scaled a marketing agency to 2,500 people. And he was the second hire. And he's like, it never changes. He's like, your complexity just gets bigger. The problems get bigger and grander, but the feeling of like, shit, I need to sort that. I don't know. When I do that, it'll be better. Like that kind of feeling that you're always. He said it never changes. In 15 years of what they did, which is insane, you're always going to be on that like treadmill, and that. I guess we're a bit addicted to it as well.
Like, of course, 100%. But it's like, what is the addiction? Is it which I can't work out? Is it, as I said, but it's great, but it's what drives people forward. And it definitely drives me.
I love it. So what was your role like at Trilogy over this period then? We'll go to COVID in a minute, but growing the business up to IR35, up to COVID, were you like a hands-on billing leader? Was that the kind of role you took?
Yeah, I think I was very hands-on for probably about 4.5, 5 years. Because, I think when we were really getting going, people want to see it and want to learn from it, and they feed off it as well. So I was hands-on, be it on the phone, pitching on the sales. The guys still ask me now, I won't go through all my tricks and stuff like that, but if people want to hear certain leads and they've got certain bits of information and they're struggling to get the last bit of who's that hiring manager, they'll forward it on to me and they're like, Dan, can you get this? I'll be like, sure, no problem, and I'll get it every time. And people learn from that, and then they're like, right, they go and do it. So very hands-on, as in doing the full 360 job, for the first 5 years. As well as managing different people. The three of us have all got different skills and different things, and we all focused on sales. So that was, I'd say, we're all doing that element, but then we've all got other parts of our job that we're doing as well.
So when did that start to take shape for you, that there was less hands-on and it started? What was the kind of triggers in the business that made you felt you might need to shift it a bit?
I think I've been doing it for a long time, and do I always want to do this? And then it was, we really started to grow our leadership team, and then really for our leadership team to elevate and to get better, we have to get out of the way. And if we're always the people that are dealing with things, they'll never get to the levels where they could be. And so, I learned that again from my days at Hydrogen was. If you can let people step up, you've got to get out of the way. So I still go to client pitches. I still love that part of the job as well. But the hands-on stuff I don't. And then we leave it to to our management team to kind of drive a lot of those things as well.
How many people are in that now?
So there's 8. So we've got 8 managers. We've got 1 director and then 7 other managers. So on our leadership team, there's 11 of us, and it's an amazingly tight group. And that's what flows down into the rest of the business as well.
So what was it like? Tell us. Well, the sound's going to be crazy, but tell us what it was like going into COVID for you. What was February 2020 like, and then how did it all unfold?
Oh, well, actually, so January 2020 was was back then was like our I think first or second best month. Literally, our business, it was an amazing trajectory. It was in a really good place. January was amazing. We'd done our forecasting for Feb, and it looked like we were going to have a similar sort of month, and then literally just fell off a cliff. And which is hard because we'd never seen that before. Even when I saw the recession in 2008-9, it really only affected financial services industry. It didn't really affect a load of other businesses. But this affected everyone. So literally, our pipeline of jobs and people that are interviews just got canned. Where we were lucky, Well, we had the IR35, which was supposed to be kicking in April, but they delayed it. They delayed it quite late on, so we actually lost about 20 odd contractors because they looked for other jobs, which we would have had more. And if they would have delayed it a bit earlier, they would have stayed on. But we still had 200 plus contractors, and none in the UK got let go, which was great. And we decided we didn't furlough anyone. It was a business decision. We were actually small. One of our guys was stuck in New Zealand, so whilst he was there, we furloughed him for a few weeks until he got back. But we didn't furlough anyone. It was a decision of if we can, and we said this to everyone. And then we suddenly, I think what was it, March the 14th or whatever, everyone had to leave. The office, or everyone went home, and we said to everyone that it's not about results, it's about effort. All we care about is what's the effort that you're doing at home. So don't worry about the result you're going to get, because you might not get any results, but build relationships with your clients, with your candidates. Actually, you'll be able to get hold of people more now than you could sometimes if everyone was in the office, because they're all at home. Yeah. So, and that again, it was a brave call, because a lot of people were like, how do we, we need to kind of watch our pennies. But for us, we were a bit like, if we treat our staff well, they'll repay us. And it was the best decision we made. It was a tough decision, right? Because April, May, and June were tough months. We still did some deals, but not many. You
had the protection of the contract business, at least, didn't you? You knew you had revenue.
But that was it.
Yeah, and imagine being a perm business only at that point. It would have been a scary moment.
So yeah, and that's it. And then actually, so all we did was just work on different things of going, right, how do we pipeline business going forward? When's it going to happen? And working with the guys on that rather than current business or current wins. And it was great. And as I said, we started to come out of it in August, September, and things started to pick up. And as I said, October, we had like our 4th best ever month. So
how did you cope? Because again, we never worked together, but I can kind of visualize your experience, and I imagine it was very office based. It was very early and late starts and finishes. It was intense. It was non-stop, going out, socializing, and then you've got a young family at the time. Like how did you cope personally with the remote nature of last year?
So my wife and my friends, they all think I'm pretty relaxed at most things. I don't really get so worked up on things. I get passionate about things, but I don't, things don't really faze me. So I was speaking to a lot of people that are in, other recruitment companies in similar positions to see how they were coping. And as long as you because it was so hard, because you start to second guess your decisions. You're like, is that the right thing to do? Should we have furloughed people? Should we have let people go? Should we be doing more on other things? Should we be doing more training or whatever it may be? But we had to just kind of trust our judgment on a few things. We just had to hold our nerve. And actually, Ivan, Jamie, our business partners, it was great. I'd probably be a bit more worried if I was doing it on my own. I don't, it would have been a bit more difficult. But you kind of sound.
Trying to get around the team yourself and keep them motivated and training and so. But did you find that okay remotely, or were you itching to get back to the office? What was your kind of attitude?
I remember the first few days I was like, you know what, I'm going to call everyone in the business for every week. And actually, it's quite a difficult thing to do when you've got 30 odd people and everyone wants to have a chat. So I think I did it for a few times, but then not. And then we just had to. We started to do. With our leadership team, calls every day at 5:15, where because again, this was all new to us. I'd always, like you said, I'd been trained and schooled in 5 days a week, long hours in the office, and I was never sure about people that did kind of remote working and stuff like that. Yeah. Best thing that came out of COVID was that, really, because actually we learned to trust people, and actually the productivity of our business went up by about 60% in certain areas, so which was great. So we did a call at 5:15. Their teams had one thing in the morning, and then at lunchtime, and then we'd have one at 5:15. And even though we're back to the office a few days, we still do the 5:15 call every day with our leaders, because it's brought us together as a leadership team closer than we ever have. First 5-10 minutes, we're all taking the mickey out of each other and having a bit of banter, and then it's about right what the guys focusing on, and it's great, and it's really pulled us together. So that's one thing again that's been really good.
I love that. A final interruption to today's episode to introduce Vincere. Vincere is the all-in-one CRM ATS platform built for the recruitment and staffing industry. Now, I first heard about these guys about a year ago. The amount of prospect recruitment agencies and clients I was working with that were telling me they were moving over to Vincere, I had to look into it. And what I found was a business that had a global reach with multiple offices around the world. So they've got this follow the sun methodology, which allows them to support recruitment businesses wherever you are and be in your time zone. But the technology that they've invested in is becoming a disruptor in the space. More and more recruitment businesses are doing this to give their recruiters a competitive advantage. They broke into the G2 Crowd's momentum grid as a market leader based on their reviews from their customers. So the agencies that are using this platform are raving about it. Now, if you're a RAG listener and you're thinking about changing CRM, or you're a new business looking to launch with a new CRM, then I would get in touch with these guys, because if you mention that you're a RAG listener, they're doing an amazing deal. By visiting www.vincere.io/RAG, you can get an exclusive deal which offers 2 months completely free on a 2-year commitment, or 3 months completely free on a 3-year commitment. This applies to all licenses that you've either signed up for now or that you'll add in the duration of the contract. So get on there and have a look. Finally, if you're listening and you're a recruiter and you're thinking, I want to move into a more of a business development role, and I'd like to keep hold of my recruitment knowledge. Well, these guys are recruiting for a BD person, multiple roles in both Sydney and London right now. So if you've got a strong recruitment background, you want to move into BD and you want to work for a fast moving tech business that's helping people like you right now, then get in touch via their website, because they're hiring today. Back to the show. How are you managing the whole back to office stuff? Have you mandated what people do? What's the strategy for you guys?
So we are 2 days a week back in the office. That started 2 weeks ago, from when the guidelines of us being able to effectively be in a pub is we could be in the office. So we've done it 2 days a week. People could go in more if they want. Our team that work on the US market, they only do it 1 day a week, because they just work different hours, but it's just good for people to get together. So, but then we've got some people that we've hired that are a bit more regional, and they don't need to come in unless they want to. So, we've just become a bit more flexible. We've got more of a, an autonomous working environment, and it's been great, and people have thrived on it. Actually, some people, what it's like. Some people don't always like doing BD in front of their colleague, or they get a bit nervous. And actually, some people are absolutely killing it because they're doing it at home and no one's listening to them.
There's the two things, isn't there? There's the training and the culture that I think most recruitment companies worry about. They're the two major things. How do we train rookies, and how do we maintain that sales floor camaraderie? How do we make sure that when someone's got a shit day, we pick them up and we get them going? Like, how are you keep those two things? How are you focusing that?
Yeah, so on the training point, so we kind of looked at all these types of things. That's one good thing again that happened when we weren't busy in those first few months. Like operationally, we were like, what do we need to get better at? What do we want to be doing with our back office function? What do we want to be doing with our training and development? What do we want to be doing with our systems? We looked at all these different things and put these projects in place, which we would never have done if we were in the office, because you're just too busy when you're just in the moment. So we ran. We do internal training. We actually have an e-learning tool where people can do bite-sized training for 20 minutes. They're interactive courses. We had an external trainer that used to run some things, but we also, and I think the most powerful thing was every Friday we had some drop-in sessions where we do a subject matter, and then a different leader or one of us would run a session, and anyone could just drop in and learn some stuff. And it was great. On the culture piece, again, that is something that I worried about the most, because as most companies, you would think, the culture is the key thing about Trilogy. And we were like, how do we keep that? How do we know everyone's all right and still bought into it? So look, we still do Friday. Well, we did Friday sales meetings that we did every week and stuff like that. So can't continue to do that. But we used to do some quizzes, and then we do drinks and stuff like that. But it was tough. But I think people appreciated the fact that they weren't furloughed. It was a massive thing that they were just working with us. And,
I think it was an easy option for some companies to furlough, not for everyone. And I think some people probably enjoyed the fact they were furloughed because they got some real time off. But I don't know. I didn't take a day. I mean, I took a couple of days off in the July. I think I worked. It was mental last year, and I think my whole business was the same. And I'm really glad we worked through it, because I think it kept the momentum. We had a level of momentum that I don't think you've had 3 or 4 months off. And the recruitment companies, I think, that are absolute. I mean, everyone seems to be busy right now. It's not like I've not spoken to a single client in about 3 months that isn't starting to really get excited. But those that worked hard last year and stayed on the tools, I think they're capitalizing even more now, because like you said, every time you phoned a candidate or a client last year, you just dropped a little bit of money in that trust bank. Like you thought about them, and then that trust bank grows. And this year, like when all the roles come back, like who's going to get it?
Well, I can't say how many times when we have our catch-ups at 5:15 that one of the managers turns around and says, one of the clients that we worked with a year ago, they called in for a job. And they only called in because we were in touch with them. Yeah. It's like a lot of the BD was done with some of our old clients. So it's great. Look, everyone's saying it. The market is turning, which is brilliant. Not all of them, not all clients, but a lot of them are.
So in terms of the diverse, international nature of your business, you mentioned US, you mentioned Europe, UK. Yeah. How are you managing? How have you structured the teams? And you said some people work at different times. How does that look?
So, so the UK guys, they're carrying on as they always were. So it's kind of, their time zones aren't the same. I think they're 8 till 6, 8:30 till 6 or something. But so Europe guys, again, for a lot of people, people. And we did it at Hydrogen. We lost kind of the entrepreneurial edge at Hydrogen of what's important. And I said to you, it's about profit for us. How do we have a really profitable, well-built business? And that's key. And, some people just want to open offices all over the place. We've got 5 global offices, or we've got 100 staff. We can have all of those things, but it's not about that. In Europe, we can operate from here in the UK. We don't have any issues. It hasn't caused us any issues. But nice to have some language speakers, but everyone speaks English, so it's not a problem. We won't have an office there. The US is slightly different. We actually set up our US team in June of the pandemic, wow. and it was the best thing we did. We always knew we were going to do it, and we were like, let's just do it now. So we flipped our UK perm team to focus on the US, doing all the right things that we always do. And as always, it kind of takes about 3 months. And so it was a team of 4, and then just deals started to happen. And we were focusing on the East Coast because the time difference is 5 hours. And then we hired a couple of people. So we hired, I think in H2 of 2020, we hired 11 people, where a lot of people are getting rid of people and stuff like that. We're hiring. So we hired 2 guys to focus on the West Coast, which is a bit trickier, their hours. So, a lot of people that they do basically 11:30 till 8:30, but they're on their phone, and that's not every day. And then some days till 9:30, and then the guys on the West Coast are on the phone at 11 o'clock or midnight sometimes. But they want to do it. So our aim is to be in New York and LA, as soon as we can, really. Ivan, my business partner, he's moving out there, so it's just show how serious we're taking it. So he's going through the visa process, and we'll hope to be there at the end of the year.
That's exciting. That's super exciting. And you do hear a lot of people talk about the US as being, the holy grail of go there, and one biller of 200 grand in the UK is going to do $500,000 easy. Because have you seen that? Is it just the increase in size of fee, or is it it's a bit of both. When you mentioned to me about, could we, when you were talking about,
contract billers, and then, about their pace, and then you kind of got the detail on how that works. The US market is like that, and it was like it was when the UK was busy. So it's more of a perm market, and the reason is everyone's on 2 weeks' notice. It's crazy. So and so for the effort you were doing to do let's just say a 15K fee in the UK, and they might be on a month's notice, or if you're pushing for a 25K fee and it's 3 months' notice, in the US it's a $35,000 fee up to $80,000, and they're on 2 weeks' notice, and the pace is just insane. So again, you've got to get it right. We aren't going for the big companies. We're going ones where, again, we can have a relationship with them. A fintech in the UK watches their penny. In a fintech in the US, they're getting like 100 million for recruitment. It's crazy. Wow, it's mental. So and look, but ultimately it then comes down to the people that we can hire and we can train and develop, to do the right things. But
so what's the vision then, Dan? So you've mentioned LA, New York, London. Where is Trilogy heading? What's your kind of long-term plan?
Yeah, so we always do kind of 3-year visions within the business. We always have So we kind of, our last vision was till 2023. And back then, and considering we had COVID in between, our numbers haven't changed. We were doing 5 million in gross profit. So we said, our vision is let's do 10 million in gross profit by 2023. Mm-hmm. Let's have 400 contractors out. Let's have 4 offices. And at the time, we didn't even know about the US because we've got an office in Ireland as well. And that's how we run our European business out there. Right. And then and we said we want to kind of be split 75% contract, 25% perm, and then have a leadership team that can take us to the next level after that. So that's kind of where we want to get to, and I totally believe we're going to get there.
How many people will be in the company at that point? Do you think end of 2023?
Well, it's a hard one. I think at the time, I think we branded a number about 70 to 80 people, but I don't believe we need to double our revenue. I don't think we need to double our headcount. I don't think we need to do that. If we can just, as you said, train our guys better, develop them better, and they can become better billers. But you always need to keep pushing the business forward. So as we go to the US, we will hire more people.
Just I can feel the energy, the momentum off you. Like you've got some real. I mean, I've got no doubt you're going to do it. What's the vision for you personally? Do you see yourself selling the business one day, or sitting there as like a chairman? I get the vibe off you. You'd be too itchy to get out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, everyone asks us that when we, like, do you want to do this to sell? I mean, if someone's going to give us a silly amount of money, I'm not going to ever say no. But we never set it up to do that. I think the plan was, can we have a really well-run business? But actually, do you know what? If I could work 3 or 4 days a week, spend a bit more time with the family, then great. And actually, we know that the business is being run in the right way. As you said, I love it. I love what we do. I get a buzz for it. We've got new challenges in different locations, and we've got to go and and eat away at the market share. I think we've got a good reputation and got a good brand, but we can do a lot more. So I just want to be part of the journey with it.
I love it. So if you had to look back and you were going to educate or support a new founder, right? There's someone who's sat here today, starting on June 1st was yesterday. So let's say July the 1st, they're starting their new agency. What's your 3 pieces of advice you would give them that they, starting in today's market, but learning from the things you've taken from your days at Trilogy?
Yeah. So have a clear plan, really have a plan. And no one sticks to their plan, right? But have a plan, because you need to know where, where your destination is, what you're trying to achieve. So we had a budget plan. We had kind of some clear goals at the time, and I think you've got to do that. And they will change, but no, I don't know anyone that's ever hit their budget. You either exceed it or underachieve it. But you need to know what you're shooting for. So have that. Surround yourself by good people. Really do. I think be prepared to be vulnerable at times and kind of say, I don't know. I always did that. People sometimes look up to you and expect you to have the answer the whole time, and actually it goes a lot the other way when you're like, I don't know, but we'll work it out together, and we'll come up with some solutions. So have a clear plan with your vision and your strategy. Surround yourself by good people, and then throw everything into it. Nobody, when you've been successful, or whoever they may be, you don't get there by luck. I believe you make your own luck, and it comes from hard work.
What do you think is the reason people get it wrong then? Like, because there's a lot of businesses that, I say get it wrong, but why do you think there's a lot of people who say they want to scale it, they want to grow something, and they don't get beyond 10. They get 81% of the UK recruitment agency owners or agencies are sub 10 staff, sub 1 million turnover. So what do you think the reason for that is?
I think you've got to, again, you might need to either ask for some help, to some advice, because some people just think, I know how to do this, and actually their business hasn't evolved in however many years. And then you need someone to look into it from, it's just got a different opinion. I think that's what's really good about the 3 of us. We've all got different opinions. We kind of tend to agree at the end, but we might have worked on each other to give a different opinion along the way. But we know what are the right levers to kind of, you've got to pull to kind of a successful business. Again, you've got to grow, but the company's got to be worth something. You can only grow if it's profitable, and you've got to kind of push the button at the right time when to hire. Are you in the right market? So like you said, you've got a mentor. You need to sense check what you're doing and take some advice along the way. Some people are too stubborn to ask for help.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I think my vision on it is some people they want too much control, so they're not prepared to give anything away. You know, they want to be the superstar biller, and they wonder why they're not growing when they've just got a lot of resources and they're not really allowing anyone to like you said, get out the way and people will step up. I've recently stepped to the side of my whole marketing agency now. As I'm not involved with it. I mean, I own it and I bring business in, but I don't get involved in the day to day because I took over the academy business, and I also felt like I was probably getting in the way of certain bits. So it's liberating to say, watch people flourish. But there's so many people in our world that struggle with that, I think. If anyone did want to reach out, Dan, who's listening to this show, would you be prepared to give them a bit of time, just have a chat to them, give them any advice?
All day long. I love to, I've got, I'm one of the lucky ones. I've had a good story. My journey in recruitment, it's gone like that. There's been challenges along the way, and really that's the market. But we're on the run for a really good market. It tends to happen. You normally have 7 years of they always say that, like 7 years or so, and then you have a crash, and then it kind of rebalances, and then you have a good time. And we're on for a good time now. Everyone's can push forward. So I'm happy to give advice. What went well, what didn't go so well. Yeah, all the time I'll help people.
Wicked. Well, look, I'd love to get you on in the future when let's see if you get to that 2023. Hopefully, I'll still be running the show by then, but we'll get you on in the future.
See if you're still doing the podcast then.
Yeah, well, you know what? Like, I've told everyone I'm having a break at the end in July this year to revamp the show a little bit. I've been non-stop since I went daily with the show at the beginning of lockdown because I was like, that's the only way I know I can give value to as many people as I can. So I interviewed people every single day. I did 66 episodes in lockdown, in the first lockdown, and I was burnt out. And then when I kicked on again in August, I think July, August, I've not had a break since. So I'm having a month off. But yeah, this show is, if I had to choose one thing to do as a living, this is it. I love it more than anything. It's my favorite. So yeah, there'll be no doubt I'll be doing something like this. Cool. Dan, it's been a pleasure. Like I said, we'll definitely get you back on in the future, and best of luck with everything. Okay.
Thank you very much. And to you. Cheers, Sean. Thanks for your time.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed today's show, I say the same thing every week, right? If I truly believe that Dan's story it's unique to Dan, but there's so many great people in our sector that are prepared to help each other. Don't be stubborn. Don't be sat there in a silo. Reach out. Listen to shows like this because together we're stronger. So if you've liked this episode, pass it on. Share the link. Let someone else listen to it. We are in a good time. We're coming out of COVID, but we can all learn more. So with that in mind, I'll be back again next Wednesday with another episode. In the meantime, please stay safe. I'll see you soon.